Alrighty, hi everyone. Harry here from Year 13. I have Damien Wright with me here on behalf of Oysters South Australia. Oysters South Australia is an industry association that works to promote the South Australia's primary oyster industry, as well as oyster research, industry partnerships, and importantly promotes opportunities for connection between growers, government, associates, and with us, the consumers. So, Damien, welcome today to the webinar. It's great to have the opportunity to chat with you.
Thanks.
Before we get stuck into the questions, it'd be great if you could give us a recap of your post-school journey and how you made your way into the aquaculture industry, and more specifically, working at an oyster farm that you do so today.
Yep. So I left school at the age of 17. Towards the end of year 11, I had a job offer to start an apprenticeship as a diesel mechanic. So finished school, did my apprenticeship, which was 4 years. Following that, I took the skills I gained there and went and worked from side to side across the country, every state, in a lot of different industries, heavy vehicle transport, station, sheep and cattle stations, drilling rigs, four-wheel drive fitter, outback roadhouses. And after doing that for about 10 years, I took a job as a tour guide at a holiday resort up on the Great Barrier Reef. Worked up there for about 6 months. There was a few issues with upper management, which resulted in me coming back to Adelaide. When I got back to Adelaide, my mum said to me, well, you got to go and do something. And I just said to her, you know what, I'm going to go to university. I'm going to study marine biology and aquaculture. And she just about fell over because that's not the kind of person that I am or that she thought she knew.
Yeah.
So I took that and ran with it. While I was studying, I was also training up to get my commercial boat license, so coxswain certification. And I did that and clocked my time up working on a fishing charter boat while I was also full-time at university.
Wow.
So I gained all those skills while I was studying as well. And then following finishing university, graduated in 2019 with honours. Took a job with a company with a farm in Ceduna on the far west coast of South Australia. And within 12 months of starting there, I got bumped up to being farm manager. Within 8 months of being the farm manager, I received a call an invite to become a board member of the South Australian Oyster Growers Association.
Fantastic.
And that's where you find me today.
There we go. Wow, what a story. Good. That's the shorthand version. Imagine there's a lot of stories you have in between, working from the coast to the outback. Carrying it back a bit to a day in the life of an oyster farmer, can you give us a bit of detail about what your day's like from 6 a.m. when you're starting to finishing up at the end of the day?
Yeah, so the industry is heavily dependent on the environment. So we adjust our start times depending on the tides and the weather. Days will start earlier. Some days we might start a bit later, but we'll go a bit later in the day. It all depends on what the tides are doing. So, for example, today we had an early tide. We started at the farm here this morning at 6 a.m. Because we were moving a fair bit of stock around. So we kicked off at 6. I gave the boys a daily briefing. We got the boats ready and we got to it. We moved around about 2,000 baskets today, which was, it's quite physically demanding. You're walking around in the water and everything. Everyone gets hungry. Everyone wants that, that morning tea break. But when you've got deadlines, you got to push it back. So generally, our day consists of hitting the water. First thing, we go out, we'll pick up a set number of cylinders, bring them into the shed, grade them according to size. We've got some big machines out here that do it. It takes a bit of the work off us, but it's still quite physically demanding. and then we load them according to size, put them back on the boat, take them back and put them in the water, so that they can get a drink and heal themselves and continue to grow. By grading them, you thin down the densities, so you don't have you might go from 500 oysters of one size in the basket. When you spread them, you might end up with 3 different sizes of 100, between 150 and 90, depending on the size. And you put them in, and the size of the mesh in the baskets also varies depending on the size of the oyster. The bigger the hole, the more water flow. Mm-hmm. But you can't go putting 5 mil oysters into a 20 mil basket. It doesn't work. Everything just falls out. It's not great. So so that's generally our day. Some days are fantastic. It's the weather's nice, the tides are nice. There's no wind. It's a beautiful day. It's beautiful to be an oyster farmer on those days. Unfortunately, you take the good with the bad. And some days it's blowing 30 knots. It's raining. It's hailing. You're out in the water and a front comes through and you just get absolutely belted with hail and rain and soaked to the core, and you can't get warm for the life of you for the rest of the day. But it's it's all part and parcel. It's like any kind of farming. You take the good with the bad, and you just roll with it and you have fun. If you don't have fun, you're not, then it is hard work.
Yeah. So. It sounds very rewarding though. And also no 2 days are exactly the same.
Not at all. Never.
Yeah. It sounds like a very peaceful and, obviously challenging and trialing at times with working against Mother Nature, but yeah. It can beat being stuck in an office, that's for sure, probably.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
So, right, I can see that your day's pretty varied, being, you're doing your administration work in the office, doing the numbers and the volume stuff, and also being hands-on out there in the water and in the shed, making sure, all the sizing's done correctly and you thin out the stock and things. Which part of that, there's obviously the technical, the manual, the like mentally demanding from an administration point of view. What gives you the most satisfaction? Is it being out in the water? Is it being in the shed and being hands-on with the oysters, or is it at the end of the day seeing the volume of stock you moved?
Yeah, for me, the most rewarding part of it is seeing a batch of oysters that have come in. They've come in as spat, which is baby oysters. They vary from 1.8 millimeter to 5 millimeter in size, and just watching the progression as you nurture them all the way through until you put them in a bag on a truck and say goodbye to them. That's probably the most rewarding thing when they go on the truck at their end of the time on the farm here with me, and I know that oyster has been through the shed probably 10 times in its life on the farm here. To see that progression from start to finish, it's quite rewarding.
I can imagine, and you see, because there's other career paths people can go down that you don't have as much control or much connection to your end product. It's just out there. So I can see if that is something you're interested in and you like being outside and being in the beauty of nature and having kind of touching what you're working with, it'd be extremely rewarding kind of industry and career to go into. So we know what you love about your job. We know what areas that you find challenging, and and battling the climate at times can be difficult, but it also rewarded with the beautiful scenery you get and those picturesque mornings where it's still as anything on the water. What personal attributes do you have that whether you've learned them over your years of working up in the territory or working in the Great Barrier Reef or being a diesel mechanic or studying your honours in aquaculture, not aquaculture, marine biology, what are those attributes that you developed along your career and your life do you think help you in your role?
So I think for me personally, I've learned a lot from a lot of different employers. I've worked for some really, really great people. I've worked for some not so great people. You take the good with the bad. It's life. It's one of those things. Not everyone's the same. If we're all the same, it would be boring. So I've looked everywhere I've worked. I've taken on board from the people that I've been working with and for how they treat other people, how I like to be treated, and I prefer the way I want them to treat me. You know, I would rather give people a gentle push along, and when they need it, than, you know, yell and bark and carry on, because you don't get anywhere like out of that. It's do it, then it just gets done. So I think that's something that I've developed in my own leadership style. The guys I've got working under me, I've got 5 guys working with me out here, and they all know that if I ask them to do something, it's basically I'm giving them a direction, but as a question.
Yes.
I'm not one of these people that's going to come out and go, right, you go and do this, you go and do this, you go and do this. And I don't ask anyone to do anything I'm not willing to do myself. You know, if it's leading by example is the best way I've found of getting people to hook in and do something. If you ask someone to, you know, go and do something and it's a really crappy job, but you're not willing to do it yourself, then they're not going to. Then they're not going to do it. And it could be, you know, it could be something as simple as at the end of the week cleaning the toilet.
Yeah,
it's, you know, it's one of those things. We all do it. We
just
all
chip in.
We all rotate through it, and the boys see me doing that. They see me doing like the floor sump. You know, it's one of those things that I'm not going to ask you to do it if I'm not going to do it.
Definitely.
So, you know, I'll and that's personal, something that I've developed out of everywhere I've worked. And yeah, I don't yell, scream, carry on. That's just me personally. I've seen a lot of people that do, and they don't get the best out of people. You end up with a revolving door out the front of
exactly
where we're working. If you go that way, and I don't want that.
No,
so,
exactly.
Yeah,
definitely. Oh, yeah, everything you mentioned there, it's, you know, it speaks so true. Leading by example, and, you know, doing things that others, you know, maybe more like required to do from their, you know, employment position and whatnot. But it's a testament to you, Damien, and obviously shows how far you've gotten in your career this far to be able to, you know, just roll your sleeves up and get into it, even if it's not actually your job. And I think that's a big thing that we all need to accept and learn, is that there's no such thing as like, that's not my job. It's, if you work somewhere, you're all working towards the same goal. Everyone chips in and gets it done. And it's the way to that's the way that a happy workplace should kind of, you know, go on. You know, outside of these attributes you've developed from, you know, seeing what not to do from less than desirable bosses and what to do from great, you know, leaders and mentors. Are these the skills that you look for in individuals when you're trying to hire them, or do you think these are the skills that are really important, or that, you know, people should take into the aquaculture and agriculture and oyster industry? And are there any other skills in particular that you might want to recommend as, you know, as long as you can do these 4 things, then you're kind of going to have a good time?
Yeah. So probably number 1 for me is people skills. The crew that I've got here is very cohesive. We have a lot of fun, and, you know, we get the job done. We have a laugh while we're doing it.
Yeah.
And when I've been interviewing people for different roles out at the farm here in the last year or so, I've been looking for how personable they are, whether they're standing there picking their fingers while I'm talking to them, or if they're, you know, staring at their feet. It's, for me, people skills, eye contact, communication. They're, you know, if you walk in here, if you were to walk into my office tomorrow, shake my hand and go, I want a job, I'll probably go, right, have a seat, let's go.
Yeah.
If you're going to come shuffling in, looking a bit unkempt, stare at your feet, mumble when you talk, then I'm going to go, well, maybe not so much. Confidence is key. Trying to break, whether you're trying to break into the oyster industry, the aquaculture industry, any industry, I've always found that being confident, not only in yourself, you can be quite insecure with your own feelings and everything, but project outwards that you're quite confident. And it's that projection that helps people in industry view you in a positive light. One thing I've always suggested to young people that have come to me looking for advice, and when I say young people, I'm talking everyone, and only even a couple of years younger than me. I say to them, the biggest piece of advice I can give you is print out your resume, work out where you want to work, and rock up in their office.
Yeah.
You can send emails all day, every day, and not get a response. If you take the 10 minutes to find out where they're based, where their offices are, and walk in there with resume in hand, then the worst they can say is no. Which take that as a character building.
Yeah.
It's better than, at least you've got an answer then.
Absolutely. Well, yeah, what you've detailed there being your personal professional skills, making sure you appear with, the job you're looking to get, and of course the confidence, especially when you're working in an industry, in a role that you're working with the team 24/7. I imagine most of the time you're with a crew, and you want to be able to get along with your crew and get along with your colleagues, and also when you are working outside in the elements, and there's probably elements of risk in what you do. And Absolutely. You want to have confidence and faith that you're with colleagues that, have got your back, and that you have confidence that they're, up for the job, if you will.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, that's all the time we have for today, Damien. But
no
on behalf of Year 13 and everyone that tuned in, for this webinar, I'd like to thank you for your time. I'd also like to thank Oysters South Australia for giving us this opportunity. Again, all the stories you've told us, and you've given us a lot of advice and a lot of things to think about. And no doubt there's a lot of people listening now thinking, right, I've definitely got to take on board what Damien has said and think about things a little bit differently, and, consider all the options. And that sometimes the best thing to do is just take that chance and really commit to a decision you make. If you always think about it, you'll never really go anywhere. So thank you for sharing that knowledge and that wisdom. It was very generous of you. And it was great. Pleasure speaking to you, and I hope the weather's kind to you tomorrow out in the water.
Yeah, no worries. Thanks, Harry.
Cheers, mate. Bye.
Cheers. Bye.